Whether you're just meeting someone or you're courting or you're dating or you're in a long-term relationship, keep it spicy. So if you've just met someone, and we're gonna go through each of these so that you can see what they look like in the various stages of relationships. Starting with, if you just met someone, boring is basically what? It's predictability. If she knows what you're gonna say because she's heard it 100 times before, then that's boring. You wanna come in with something a little bit different. And if you can add humor to that, it's going to give you extra bonus points, especially because if you can make her laugh, that releases feel-good hormones, endorphins, that she associates with being around you. That's a good thing. So initially, you just want to kind of throw her off guard by saying or doing something that is completely out of left field. For example, if you are really good looking, maybe you're a Chad or a Tyrone, then you might say something self-deprecating about your looks, but not obvious. So instead of being arrogant about your looks, you might go for something like, I know I'm just an ugly bum, but you look like a nice girl who'd go for personality. So that's unexpected. You know you're good looking. She knows you're good looking. She knows you know you're good looking. But by saying that you're not good looking and giving her credit for going for personality, that's unexpected. That's not boring. On the other hand, if you're not really good looking or really tall or really whatever, instead of making that a flaw, you would actually go in with that as your positive trait. So you might say something like, I know you're probably intimidated by my good looks, but I assure you I'm not a bad boy, wink, wink, or whatever. Like you play it up, you over exaggerate. Whatever your flaw is that you think is the worst thing, you make that your hottest trait and you own it. And she will probably chuckle a bit because she'll either think you're completely nuts because you think this trait is attractive, or she will be completely enamored or impressed at the very least by your audacity and boldness to make that trait something positive. She will be super impressed with confidence. All women love confidence, not arrogance. Big difference. And yes, you do have to have cojones of steel to be able to pull this off. And that's why you should practice. Practice, practice, practice when it's not that important, when there's no attachment to the outcome, when you're not invested. Practice on the fugglies. You know what I mean? Okay. You might also want to watch my video on how to get a girl out of your league, because that will help you with your mindset. But you have to be super careful because you have to be able to deliver this with true confidence about that flaw. Like if you're someone who is constantly self-deprecating a flaw because you really think it's a flaw, then it doesn't come off as funny. It comes off as insecure. So again, you want to practice this until you can really own it and be like, hey man, this is actually kind of working for me. And this includes if you're tall, if you're short, if you're fat. The only time it doesn't count is when you are smelly. You got to make sure you deal with the smelly. You can't have bad breath. You can't have BO. Then the next stage is texting and communication. And this can be when you're just courting, or it can be when you're already in a relationship. You want to make sure that you're always keeping things exciting and different, especially if you're just courting with her, then she's probably got some other orbiters that she's communicating with, and you want to make sure you're standing out from them in a positive way. How to do this? I want to share that. Again, key point, always the number one key point is unpredictability. She wants to make sure you're reliable later on, but in ways that actually matter. When it comes to keeping the relationship exciting, you want to make sure that you're unpredictable in ways that are safe. So that might be in texting. So you're not going to text every morning with a hey beautiful or good morning beautiful. Like that's so boring. That's what every other guy does, and it becomes tedious and suffocating. Tedious and suffocating until she's more invested in you. Key point, until she's more invested in you. And I'm going to give you a rule of thumb for how often to message her and initiate communication later in the video, so stay tuned for that. But for now, what you can do when you're texting courting to keep things interesting and playful and fun and enticing for her is to always inject or insert a little bit of humor. Now, if you can keep it a little bit in the naughty zone, only once per interaction at the most, otherwise you just become the creepy guy who wants to get in her pants or her skirt, whatever, then you want to make sure that you have some humor in there. For example, include random messages at odd times or odd questions that come out of the blue and have nothing to do with the conversation. Or funny memes. Memes are great. Somebody else has come up with something funny. You're just using it with her. Perfect. Doesn't even require a lot of effort. Photos of things in the real world that made you think of her. If you take a picture of a hot dog stand, say, my meat is thinking about you, you might want to save that for when your meat has already seen her goods and services, if you know what I mean. And or a pre-recorded voice note, not a phone call. Gonna get to when to make the phone call in a minute. But generally, unless she's over 40 and not an introvert, she's not gonna want you actually calling her out of the blue, and she won't pick up. She might even be annoyed. The younger she is, the more annoyed she'll be. Especially nowadays, young people don't know how to actually communicate in real time. They're all busy about texting and thinking and checking with a girlfriend and, trying to figure out what the next logical thing is to say in text format, not like on the spot. But if you send her a voice note, then she doesn't have to come up with an answer on the spot. She can listen to it and reply by text. And if you're really brave, you might even want to send her pre-recorded visual, a little video clip of wherever you are in the world. Hey, I saw this and I was thinking of you. Remember when we had that conversation? Ha ha ha, inside joke. Inside jokes are great. And of course, never, no matter how old she is, never try to FaceTime or Snapchat unless she's agreed to it and there's a prior arrangement, because guess what? Real time, out of the blue, she doesn't have time for makeup or filters or any of the stuff that a woman likes to prep for, because, online video make us look uglier than we really are. It's true, actually. Okay, let's go through when you're dating and in long-term relationships, and then I'm going to give you the rule of thumb for how often to initiate communication. So once you've got her in your lair, you'll want to continue to seduce her mind and heart, not just her other parts. And this means that you're going to continue with the random, funny communication by text or messenger or what have you. And you're going to continue to be unpredictable in good ways, not bad ways. So the bad ways of being unpredictable are canceling or not showing up for a date, ignoring text or calls for extended period of time, lying, cheating, or generally being a dick. All right, the good ways of maintaining unpredictability and excitement are a romantic but ridiculous, over-the-top announcement like on Craigslist or some other public place that doesn't totally out her specifically, but that she'll know it's her. Yeah, you can send that to her because she might not just find it. Now, this is when she's invested. Remember, not at the beginning. You're already dating her. She's already given you the cookie and wants to give it to you more. Another way is a surprise date at a new location. So something out of the ordinary, maybe even for both of you. Once we're actually allowed to go out and play again, maybe you're going to go to an amusement park, but it's going to be theme related. So you dress up in costume, and that's, part of the surprise fun. Now you have to gauge, of course, she might not like that, but the idea is to do something different. And even if she doesn't like it, she can appreciate the creativity of it. And another way is to have a planned event or date, but she doesn't know all the details, but the details are specific to her love language. So I've done another video on what the 5 love languages are, so definitely you'll want to watch that. I'll link it at the end. And I'm going to give you some great questions that you can ask at any stage of the relationship that are unusual and personal and intimate, that will deepen your level of connection no matter what stage you are at in the relationship. So now, what about initiating communication? How often should you actually reach out to her? Rule of thumb number 1, initiate or reach out to her approximately 30% of the time, or about, 1 in 3 times you initiate at the beginning of the courting, and about 50% of the time after she's committed, assuming she reaches back out to you. So of course, if she's not communicating or reaching out as often, well, then you're going to hold back a bit. So once you actually draw her in, then it's going to be about 50% of the time, fair, back and forth, once you're actually dating or further along in the relationship. And rule of thumb number 2 is be the first to end the conversation. No matter who started the conversation, be the first to end the conversation about 70% of the time, no matter what stage of the relationship you're in, because you always want to leave them wanting more, right? You want them coming to you. So you want to also remember that exiting the conversation doesn't mean just ghosting, but it means you're the one that's going to sign off first. Like, okay, sorry, this was such a short conversation, but I've got to attend to something, or I've got something to do. And try to keep some mystery in there. That way, she'll know that you are interested and intrigued, but at the same time, she's encouraged within herself to reach out to you more often. And there are 36 questions that you can ask your gal or gal-to-be that are quite interesting and unpredictable in a good way. And you can kind of gauge when you should ask those questions based on what I have shared in the videos on those questions. Watch those now.